is.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm glad you were able to make it. I've been looking forward to having a chat with you for a while because I've noticed you're online, and I think you were on the Paddy group as well. I think, right? With
Yeah.
Saki and the team.
Not necessarily. I have a number, like one of my numbers that I don't have access anymore. It's there. So yeah,
Mm.
theoretically I'm there, but I'm not.
You're there, but not
Yeah.
there. So, which area in France do you live?
I live in Montpellier.
Montpellier.
Yes.
Ah, okay. Is
Actually, you
that
pronunciate the
how
name
far from
better.
Paris is that?
Actually, you pronunciate the name better than me.
Sorry.
You pronunciate the name better than me.
Yours didn't sound so bad. I mean, I could understand what you said.
Yeah.
One of the questions I'm actually going to ask you is like, what's it like being a designer, working if you're not French? I mean, in France, if you're not French speaking.
I have a very wicked. Like I will lie already. Okay, so like because I work remotely, I can't tell.
Oh, yeah.
So like it's like yeah, like most of my team is distributed. So I'm a part of I am part of a multicultural team. So
Yes.
I can't tell what the French experience is like so far. But I can tell you about how it. Example, I am in France and I don't speak French, and which is a very very interesting experience because one of the reasons that made me come here is I wanted to learn French. Like I'm from Mozambique
Oh,
and my
okay.
first language is Portuguese.
Portuguese, yeah.
Uh, yeah, so I'm a bit lazy. So I wanted like to be an environment that would force me to learn the language because I knew that voluntarily I wouldn't. So now I have no choice. So I have to listen to people, and I'm learning the words as I go because literally
Yes.
I have no choice. It's a funny experience. Like,
So if you're mostly remote, why did you have to move to France? I guess it was your choice, like you're saying, because you wanted to learn the language.
and yes and no, yes and no is uh, it's more complicated than that, and I don't think I'm legally able to answer that question like for now. Yeah, like
So,
big corporations rules.
fun fact: the name Gideon runs deep in my family.
Oh, for real?
So,
Tell me
yeah,
more
my
about it.
granddad was called Gideon.
Really?
One or two people in my family are called Gideon, and my close cousin married a Kenyan guy called Gideon.
Oh, I see. Nice.
But they're all the English. So, is your spelling the Portuguese version of Gideon?
Yes. Yeah. Because in English, I think you call Guidione, right?
So I actually thought it was Guy because I have I know a guy called uh Guillermo,
Okay.
Guillermo, and I think they're Portuguese actually. So I actually thought GUI for you would be
No, no,
pronounced
no, 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 no.
Guidione or
No.
something like that.
Only it's different because like I read the name in Portuguese. So in Portuguese, Gui is Gui.
Yeah.
If you call me Guidione, like who are you talking about?
Cool. So we've got some people online,
So,
and we are 8 minutes in, so I think we can get started. and people will join as they join. Thank you so much, Joy and Isaac, for coming on. Really appreciate you. So Isaac is saying he didn't
Dude,
know.
Isaac, don't do that, please. That's not my name.
Said he didn't know that he's spelling for it. Yeah. Thank
You're
you,
ruining
Joy.
everything for me.
We've got Mundir online. Thank you so much for joining yet again, Mundir. Appreciate the support. Cool. So Gideon. So what do I call you for short? It has to be Gui, right?
Yeah, you know me, Gee. Gee or Gee?
Gui.
Yeah.
Gid. Yeah, okay, I'll do Gui. So Gui, tell us about yourself. I think most people that are coming off familiar. Oh, so Mundir is saying he's seeing a black screen. That is peculiar. So Mundir, try and go on the YouTube. Maybe it's if you go on YouTube, you might be able to see it. Cool. So Guy, tell us about yourself. People here aren't familiar with your story. Tell us about your story.
It's quite hard talking about me. So, like, I'm a product designer currently based in France, and I work for Shopify, as you guys can see on my LinkedIn. But back then, I lived in Mozambique. I was born and was raised in Mozambique. I like lived 4 to almost 5 years in South Africa. Uh, but like from Mozambique is where I started to work as designer, and I was able to help create like developers and design communities there. Like I moved to South Africa, like continuing working as designer. But my interest on developer communities continued to help like growing labs of developers to 6 countries and 11 cities across Africa. Managed to make it one of the biggest like developers community in the continent. Uh, and then I switched, start focus more on design, created a podcast interviewing world class designer with the aim of becoming one myself. Like so was the podcast was mostly for me than anything else. So I was like broadcasting everything I could. Uh, I was broadcasting everything that I was learning. But the idea was like, how could I take those knowledge? Could I take this knowledge like for myself and become like a better designer? So like from there, I started writing articles, organized a conference, raised enough money to start a school. Like which I'm starting like the MVP part of the school like next week in Mozambique. And if everything goes well, we're going to be launching the school, the full program, like for the rest of the world, rest of the Africa to be more specific. Next year, like Jan, if everything goes well. So don't hold my words on that. So my team will kill me making these promises publicly. So yeah, like I speak in like multiple conferences all over the world. I was named one of the best community builders in Africa by Google in 2018. So won a trip to America, met a lot of Google people, met the founder of Google Developers Group. I also did
Wow,
a
that's
TEDx
incredible.
presentation. Yeah. It's cool. It was nice. It was my first time to America actually.
So what does community building mean? Like what work were you doing to get recognized?
I've been one of the biggest like communities, developers communities in Africa, labs of developers. So we had activities in like 11 cities across Africa in less than 2 years.
Wow. And is that still running?
I don't think so. I've left the company some time ago and I stopped working on that part. To be honest, I don't know because that was
Okay.
part of my job also.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And we've
Uh,
got a question here from Joy. When is there going to be another world class design conference?
it's a bit hard to answer that question now, like because the conference was online because it was COVID time, and the people have have in a way digital fatigue. I don't see us organizing another online conference. Like the idea is to do hybrid, but if we do, like we still have like a lot of constraints regarding locations or where we're gonna be doing how. So the project world class design will definitely continue. We're gonna continue supporting Africa because that is part of what we want to do and we won't stop. So we had to hold activities back on that because, example, like there are three people running the organization or the project because it's not an organization per se. Like we both changed like recently. Maria, she's from Russia and she was living in Italy. I had to move to Berlin. Prad is from India. Have been traveling back and forth, like from India to Milan, and trying to run his life. So we kind of had like I'm from Mozambique. I had to move to France, so we kind of have our life disrupted, and we couldn't be able to help other people without helping ourselves first. So we kind of
Right.
paused things to be able to like be organized and to be able to continue. So yes, we will continue with the project. Regarding the coverage, we can't make promises now, but like I can commit that we will continue with the mission to help like African designers like shine in a way.
That's incredible. And that's actually part of why I wanted you to come on and have a chat. And why I called this live stream like owning your own design identity. Right. And I've been very curious to find out as an African doing world class work around the world, how do you feel being African has equipped you, and the experience you had back home in Mozambique, being a designer in that environment? How do you think that differentiates you on the world stage as a designer?
I think being in Africa, like it kind of gives you like a different perspective because you don't take things for granted. Example, like in France or even I remember when I went to Spain for the first time and I bought a cable, like to be able to record audio. It was a special cable like that could adapt your microphone to like a microphone to your laptop or phone. And I got that via Amazon. And
Okay.
like an Amazon, yeah, like in Spain, and Amazon did deliver that to a place close to the house I was because I was in an Airbnb. So like Amazon have like public spaces where you just went there and like put a code in a box and it will open. I was
Ah,
like,
yes.
wow, that's amazing. Like I can just go around and buy stuff like this, and I couldn't imagine doing that in my country. Like that is
Yes.
impossible. Like and I can't see
For many reasons.
like I can't see yeah. Yeah. So like and you see this type of innovation, we probably take those things for granted, but we don't
For sure.
because
For
we
sure.
know how much work is we will have to do to get at the same level. So like coming to like working for like from larger companies and having this like world level like perspective allows us to know and first of all to value things better, but also bring a different perspective from people that don't have like access to all those things. Because when projects and products are created, like the first target market, if you see like any new product when it's launched, it's available for America and Canada. Like
Yeah.
for real. And next it's available in Europe, but in the UK and France. So start asking, dudes, what about us?
Yes. Yeah. And
and
China will be a close third there. Hey.
yeah. So until you get the thing for us, it's like time is gone, and you will see that those products aren't tailored like for an African audience. Example, like I'm not sure if you're familiar with the concept of leapfrogging design, leapfrogging technology.
No.
So leapfrogging technology is basically what happens when you have
Okay,
when
yeah, I
you
think I know what you're referring to. So for example, for Africa, we went from zero straight to mobile banking, for instance, just
yes,
due
yes, that's
to
leapfrogging.
circumstance,
Yeah.
right?
So yeah, like those products that are created in the Western kind of have a lot of this leapfrogging thing inside them. So we just like, okay, this is a bit too much for us. So like, how can we simplify or remove things that we don't need there?
Yes,
Example, like there are a lot of things that the latest iPhone does, like GPS, like satellite that informs you when you're lost in the middle of the desert. Like in Africa, you can say
yes.
like, what? Like a person from Mozambique will ask what I would be doing in the desert in the first place. Like, we don't
That's
do that.
hilarious. Exactly.
Yeah, we don't do that. So like we end up having those products with like a lot of R&D dedicated to them, that kind of don't fit like what is our reality at the end of the day. An example, like if those R&D teams were based in Africa, if like Able was based in Africa, probably those ones would be completely different because they'll be addressing a total different type of problems. Example, like on those new iPhone, they have this car crash feature, like, and that
Yes,
informs like calls 911 like automatically. There is no number for you to call in Mozambique. So you
right.
crashed, it's your problem. So 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 you're like, yeah, that's cool, but I don't need this. So like coming from this environment, I believe we end up like being from Africa allows us to see like these things differently. Like a lot of the American Eastern like audience, when they see like those products being launched, they're like, oh wow, that makes sense. That's a really cool. That's a very helpful
Yes,
thing. Like, but for us, it's like, dude,
yes.
we don't need this thing. We don't need this thing. Example like the new camera. Sorry, like it seems like I'm promoting Apple, but I think it's a really good example because it's a new product, and I believe if most of the audience are tech people, they will kind of understand. The new camera shoots 8K. I think it means the photos are bigger. Like in a country where you still struggle to buy data, you're selling a phone that the photos are way big. So who does that? So you see like
Exactly.
yeah, so like you have
Yeah,
those things
it's
there
funny you
because
give those examples. I'm actually seeing that, for example, I'm from Zimbabwe, and we've got a local cell phone manufacturer. They're a company called GTEL, and
okay.
they've managed to grab quite a large piece of the market share because they understand the cultural nuances behind kind of what technology people need and what tech they don't, and what's important for people, and kind of when you talk about specs of a phone and what's not, right? So when they go to China and get their phones made, they're creating bespoke devices that have specifications that make sense for the people that they're targeting.
Yeah,
And I think that you're right. Like it's up to Africans to figure out our problems and come up with tech that's relevant for us.
yeah, definitely. Couldn't agree more on that. So yeah, being an African and being with like, being able to witness this firsthand allow me to see those things like really clearly.
Amazing. And what's your take on inclusive design? So a lot of what you've been speaking about seems to lean towards these global companies introducing some kind of inclusive, especially from a cultural perspective. Like, how have you seen that as you've worked around the world when
What
kind of global
what do
tech
you mean
companies?
by what do you mean by inclusive design?
So inclusive in the sense that an example is, for example, the home icon. Right, I was looking at this when I was working for a bank here a couple of years ago, where we were designing an application that was going to be used in the Middle East and parts of Africa and like Morocco, like those mostly Islamic, Arabic, African countries. And the icon for home when we're building the app was the standard kind of home icon, which is very Scandinavian in its design. You've got the angled roof, the classic home icon that's used in apps. And we started to realize like how do we make an icon that makes sense for people from different countries? Because a home in Morocco, for instance, does not look like that. And a home in the Middle East, where the company is actually based and where it has a stronghold, does not look like your typical. Even now, as they build houses in the Middle East, they don't look like that. So why are we perpetuating these icons and the use of this iconography when we can actually be culturally inclusive and tailor it? Maybe using our design system, we can create something scalable that actually tailors to different geographies, so people can actually feel, like we see them, right? That when we design the app, we see where they're from and we respect the cultural differences. And I'm just using the home icon as an example, but it goes all the way from your tone of voice, the way you speak to the people you're selling to, the colors you use. For example, red in the West means one thing. In Asia, red can mean a totally different thing, right? So the way we use red in apps, should it really be consistent throughout all the geographies we operate in? Because typically red is for danger and warning, right? But it doesn't mean that in China and in Japan. It means something totally different. So that's what I mean by being inclusive when we design applications. Like, have you seen or heard or started seeing those discussions come about in any of the companies you've worked for?
So, like, not necessarily, because I don't think that is a topic that, like, I would have an opinion based on experience. It's more like speculative. Uh, I would say that, like, inclusion is not taken in consideration because most of the companies are run by executives and not by designers most of the time. So, like, when
Yeah,
they have a timeline, they like, we need to launch this by next winter, and like they don't like consider it that half of the time might have to be used like only for research alone. So it's more like the biggest. I forgot the right name, but is the opinion of the highest paid person is the most important most of
exactly,
the guys.
exactly. Yeah,
And as much of those companies do have like researchers and proper teams to have all those points into considerations, like the decision makers just don't care. And I wouldn't say it's the designer's fault, but they kind of have no power in this type of situation. Like, as results, you end up saying, so it will take you at a case where an executive sees an app from a competitor and says, just create this. I want this, like for us, with no context.
yes,
And
yes,
as much as the design team tries to fight against that, they have like no power. So, like, the result is this is what we're living today. Apps that don't have into account like cultural nuances. But as I said again, that's my personal opinion. I have no evidence or experience that reinforces that part that argument, because like so far, like the teams that I've been part of, like they did spend like a bit of time, like a good chunk of time on research and trying to understand the audience and making sure that they're building for the right ones. But like the thing is, example, I've spent time building like products for Mozambique, South Africa, and like I did like a few consultants for like companies in America, and the guidelines were basically the same, like because
yes,
people on those areas are kind of used to like the same mental models.
yes. Yeah, absolutely. Another thing I wanted to ask you about is Design Sutra. So
Yep.
it's a book you wrote.
Yes.
Tell me about the inspiration behind that. What is it's a very cool name, by the way. And
Thank you.
how did you kind of think of the concept for the book?
So like there is a musician in Mozambique. His name is Azagaya. Like he's one of the most prolific rappers there. And
Okay.
in one of his song, it says sex is like uh, wait. It says like I'm not sure if life or sex is like I don't remember the right words, but it's something like it's like comparing something with sex that says you don't teach, you learn.
You learn.
Yeah, like I'm not sure like I was saying about life or business. Forgot the right reference on that. But it's like sex. You don't teach, you learn. I was like, okay, that's a very
Yeah.
interesting analogy because you can't teach sex, you learn. But at the same time, I was like, dude, this guy knows that there is a Kama Sutra around here because Kama Sutra kind of teaches you that. And like
Yeah.
I kind of use the same thing for like design. I was like design principles you don't you can't teach, you learn. Like I was like design overall, you can't teach, right? You learn. Bad design principles are like Kama Sutra for design. So these are the hack for design because if you start learning design principles, you start having like designer's eyes into the world. Like the way you
Yeah.
see things are completely different. Example like those book, my book has like 40 initially I want to have 65 like design principles. I end up like comprising them to 40,
To
but you can
40. Yeah.
apply yeah like in general, but more specifically they also align to product design. So like my idea was okay, if I was starting today like my career as designer, what would I do, what would I want to learn, like and those the principles that I listed there. And like that helps me like a lot like every day because those are principles that you apply without even knowing, and like you only
Yes.
know that you use it when someone asks you about it. So it's quite interesting. So like the idea of the book was trying to be this hack into the design field, so it would be your Kama Sutra but for design. And
And
like
is
the
it
funny
available in
thing,
English?
no, unfortunately, no. It's only in Portuguese. I intentionally wrote the book in Portuguese because we have almost no literature in Portuguese about design. So like a lot of people ask me, actually like my followers or my audience, they are mostly like English speakers, and a lot of them complain about it. I was like, I'm sorry, but this is not free.
Me
At
too.
least not now. Not now. It's only for Portuguese speaking.
Yeah, because I actually wanted to do a giveaway for your book. So what I was thinking was when I ask you the question about Design Sutra, whoever would have asked the most questions by that point would get the book. So,
Yeah, unfortunately, the book.
so
Unfortunately, the book is.
it's in Portuguese, but there are ways, man. You could use the Google Translate camera, put it over the words, and
Uh,
it'll translate.
I don't think that will work because if you like the thing is you do have alternatives in English. So if you search books about design principles, you will find like big like better books than mine on that. So I didn't think it was worthwhile to write about the topic.
Right,
So yeah,
right.
that was one of the
Imposter
reasons that
syndrome.
I
But
not
I will.
necessarily.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. Like I'm saying this because I actually read those books. Because like when I
Ah,
was writing about those principles, I wanted to make sure that I was well informed and I wanted to like misguide people. So those principles I didn't invent myself. Those
yes,
principles
yes.
did exist. Yeah.
Well, I'm still going to do a giveaway. So,
Okay.
so I think the winner is Isaac. So yeah, thanks, Isaac. If you're still on with us, which I'm sure you are. So how do I order the book? Do you have them printed or are they all digital?
They do have digital versions. It's on Gumroad. I'll send you the link.
All right, cool. So Isaac, I'll send you a copy of Gideon's book. And happy reading, brother. Happy reading. You need
Good.
to learn Portuguese on Duolingo first, and then you can. Yeah.
Yeah, he does need that. But yeah.
Cool. Are you working on any interesting personal projects?
Now I'm running the demo of the school, the MVP of the school. I aside that is something that I don't like to disclose, but anyway, I'm